Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Trains Per Network. Enjoy the trains, West Intro.
Look at that! Aha! Welcome back, 400! Welcome back!
Hey, what's up, everybody? ELS, and welcome everybody to a two-part, I call it a little mini-series on talking about the Green Bay Blizzard from 2003 to 2025. We're going to divide this into two parts, talk about the leads they were in with it. Part one, we talk about the Green Bay Blizzard were in the Arena Football 2 from 2003 2009, season by season. So we'll start off at obviously when they begun. 2003, as an expansion team, they had Jose Joseph Jefferson as their head coach, and well, year number one did not go so well. 2-14 season, they were last in the National Conference Midwest Division. And their two wins during that time came against the San Diego Riptide and the Louisville Fire. And in that season, in the Arena Cup number 4, it was between the Tulsa Taverns and the Knights. And the Tulsa Taverns won that title by the final score of 58-40. So year number 1 was not the best. But how would year number 2, the Blizzard now have a year under the belt? They now have learned a little bit with this. But year number 2, they brought in a new head coach, 2004, Brian Noble, the former Packer linebacker. And you know what? The year was an improvement for the Blizzard. They went 6 wins, got a win against the San Diego Riptide. They beat Central Valley, Oklahoma City. They beat the Pirates, the Auburn D Conquest, and they beat the Pirates twice this season, ending up in that division. They finished again last in the National Conference Midwest Division at 6-10, but an improvement was there. And well, this year the title game went between the Florida Firecats and a team the Blizzard had to play this year, the Pirates. But this year it was the Florida Firecats that won Arena Bowl number 5. But the question would be, entering into 2005, could this team get to the playoffs? And well, did they do it? Blizzard in 2005, they brought in head coach Bob Lansing, who, interesting fact, was born here in Iron Mountain, Michigan. And Bob Lansing and this Blizzard team, for the first time, they went to the playoffs, and now they are in the American Conference East Division. They finished 3rd, which their 9 wins a game against the Auburn D Conquest. They beat the Knights. They beat the Pioneers, one of the good teams here in the AF2. They went out and beat Arkansas, Louisville. They beat Quad City, Louisville again, and South Georgia during this 2005 AF2 season. And for the first time, this team went to the playoffs. But unfortunately, it was not a good in their first elimination. They did not go far in the wild card round. They lost to the Pioneers, unfortunately, 48-41, ending a amazing season in the AF2. But this year it was the Memphis Explorers taking down the Louisville Fire by a final score of 63-41 in Arena Bowl number 6. But hey, this year was a good year. The Blizzard, for the first time, made the playoffs. Could 2006 be better? And oh, my friend, yes, it could be. Blizzard this year went 10-6. Hey, for the second year in a row, you guys are going to the playoffs. And their 10 wins within the regular season came against the Wolves, Quad City Steamrollers twice, the Knights, Auburn D, the Conquest. They beat South Georgia, the Wildcats. They beat the Pioneers. They beat the Florida. Let me look here. I have these everything up here. The Florida Firecats. They beat. I have all the stats here, folks. They beat the Hawks, and then they beat the Louisville Fire this year. And you know what? This year was a better year for them. They had a first round bye in the playoffs. They took down the Memphis Explorers, the defending champions last year. Then they go into the American Conference Championship, having to take on the champions of 2004, the Florida Firecats, which they such did by the score 60-47. So hey, in the 2006 season, in only their fourth season, this team's going to the Arena Bowl number 7. They gotta take on the Spokane Shock, but unfortunately, the road ended there. They did not get there, losing by a final score of 57-34. And this game was even in Puerto Rico, making it more interesting. But unfortunately, it was not the year for the Blizzard. They made it there. But the question is, how could they do into 2007? They made it to the Arena Bowl. Could they get back to the Arena Cup again? Well, in 2007, it was an interesting year to say the least, because we'll start off with Bob Lancey that was having difficulties resolving from surgery and was forced to take a leave of absence for that 2007 season. The defensive coordinator, Doug, had to take over the job. But still, this team made the playoffs. They finished a 9-7 season, second in the American Conference in the Midwest Division. But hey, the third year in the playoffs. But they ended up beating the Manchester Wolverines. They beat the Quad City Steamrollers. They beat the Tri-City Fever. They beat Cincinnati. Yes, welcome Cincinnati into the storyline. I'm going to get the team name here if I can find it. They beat the Cincinnati Jungle Cats. Yes, twice, he invokes. They beat the Thunder, and they beat Auburn D Conquest, and they beat the Louisville Fire. So they ended up with a 9-win season. And just what? Another trip to the playoffs. In round 1, they went out and beat the Quad City Steamrollers 39-34. And hey, they went into round number 2, the conference semifinals, and they beat the Louisville Fire 37-27. They made it again to the conference title in the American Conference, but unfortunately, the Pioneers, you'll hear this story more than once, unfortunately took care of that, and they beat the Blizzard 46-43. And unfortunately, the Blizzard missed out on going to the Arena Bowl for the Arena Cup for the second year in a row, where this year it was the Tulsa Taverns getting their second one since the Blizzard have been around in a final score of 73-64. to 66. But hey, another year the Blizzard made the playoffs. They're getting somewhere. Let's move on to 2008, and Bob Landseat has returned. And man, oh man, did this Blizzard team come alive. They ended up winning the Midwest Division at 11-5 and getting into the playoffs for the fourth straight year. And man, they do a good one again. They beat the Tennessee Valley Vipers, the Manchester Wolves. They went out and beat the Quad City Steamrollers, the Iowa Barnstormers, not once, but they beat them twice. The Pirates 2 times, the Louisville Fire 2 times, and the Thunder twice. But they made it to the playoffs again. Could this be the year? Firstly, they went out and beat Lexington. They beat them out. Make sure I get the team name here, folks, because I probably get the Horsemen. They beat out 65-37, but the conference semifinals, Manchester Wolves took down the Green Bay Blizzard on a last-second 2-point conversion, which sends the Blizzard home in a final score of 55-54. So unfortunately, another year the Blizzard didn't make it. But in the Arena Cup number 9, the Tennessee Valley took down the Shock in a overtime duel of 56-55. So Tennessee Valley went out and won. But again, another year the Blizzard had made the playoffs in the AF2, but they couldn't go far. What could they do in 2009, the last year they were in the Arena Football 2, and yet again the Blizzard, for the 5th year in a row, would go to the playoffs, finishing second in the Midwest Division in the American Conference, just behind the Iowa Barnstormers, a 10-6 record. And their 10 wins came against Tennessee Valley, Quad City twice, the Milwaukee Iron not once, not twice, but 3 different occasions. They took down the Pirates 2 times. They took down the Thunder. And hey, they made it to the playoffs again. Could they get to that championship? Round 1, they go and beat Tennessee Valley 60-53 on the road in the conference semifinals against their division rival, the Iowa Barnstormers. The Green Bay Blizzard went on and beat the Barnstormers 51-46 to make it again to the conference championship, where they had to take on the team that knocked them out of the Arena Cup in 2007. That's right, the Pioneers. They would rematch, but again, the Pioneers would take down the Blizzard in a final score of 72-67 in a dueling match. But was that enough for the Pioneers to win? No, they got absolutely demolished in Arena Cup 10 by the final score of 74-27. The Shock would win the title yet again in the 10th and final edition of the Arena Football 2 Championship. And man, how about those years for them? They had made the playoffs all but 2 years. The Blizzard were in the AF2. They made it 1, 2. They made it 5 years. They made the playoffs in the AF2 before obviously they left the AF2 to move on to our next part of this. In the part 2, we'll talk about the Green Bay Blizzard and the move to the indoor football league. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you did enjoy this, please do hit the like and hit the sub. And stay tuned, folks, for part number 2, where we talk about the Great Blizzard in the IFL from 2010 up to 2025. We'll see you guys for that one. Peace out, everybody.